I just updated on my Zoom. I didn't realize it was going to be more than 100 people, or I didn't know I had an account that had a limited. So I'll wait 1 second. I think we are at a limit of 100 people. Do I get can somebody give me a thumbs up that people can hear me? Okay, all right, good. I apologize for the 100. I just updated, or I thought I did, updated my Zoom account for the 100 more participants, but I'm not, I apologize for that. And I'm just gonna, I believe I'm looking for Frank, if he's on. He's from Image Media. Hello? All right, we're going to get started. I apologize for the limited number. I did not picture it going crazy, but I did update my settings to Zoom, and they may kick in hopefully in a few seconds. So I apologize for that. And we're going to be waiting for Frank from Image Media to present on virtual graduation. So hopefully he can be able to get on. I know he was on a few seconds ago, so I'm not sure. Let's see if I see him. I kind of talk a little bit before we start anyways, and welcoming everybody. So I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming on. So my name is Jim Healey. I own a graphic design company and a communications firm called Peapod Design. We work specifically for schools on everything from market research to print, WordPress websites, photography, virtual tours. We also have a conference every year called the Brand Together Conference that's held in Providence. It's going to be there this August. We moved it. And that's kind of where we started. We wanted to start this Brand Together get together. We started about 4 weeks ago because of the virus and where we've been. So I kind of wanted to give a little background of where that is. But this is our 4th Brand Together get together. We've been fortunate to have topics ranging from crisis communication with O'Neill and Associates, tips on e-schooling from Bishop Girton High School in Nashua, New Hampshire. They're really kicking it out of the ballpark or hitting it out of the ballpark with e-learning. And we had last week, we had Frank, Tracy Palmer talking about fundraising during difficult times and unusual times. And today we have Frank Urso from Image Media talking about virtual graduation. So hopefully he'll join us. I know people kind of left and they're kind of coming on. So I hope it's going to happen. But before that, about 4 or 5 days ago, Image Media approached me with a presentation and a topic that has been coming up a lot during the past 3 weeks, and that's graduation. And there have been so many solutions, unknowns, new announced dates. And I was on a virtual meeting last week, and I mentioned this earlier when about 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago when I just got on, where somebody mentioned that they're going to have their commencement at a drive-in movie theater. And we all thought that was a phenomenal, brilliant idea. And that person may be on. I'm not sure if that person's on, because I know there's not that many drive-in movie cinemas out there. But it's such a great idea. It would apply to virtual distancing or social distancing. And I just thought that was a great idea. So hopefully that's going to happen for that school. And that kind of leads me to a great point. I have to say that I think our office has been pretty lucky to be a part of, the educational sector, where I've seen so many examples on how schools, have been rising to this challenge that we've been in for the past few weeks. And I've seen competitors working together and sharing ideas. I have to tell you, it's beyond amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And there was only one other time where I saw a whole group of competitors in the DC area coming together. And I thought that was pretty amazing. And that was a couple of years ago. But I think that if this 45 minutes that we have with everybody, if anybody has ideas or suggestions, it doesn't have to necessarily be on graduation or anything. Ask people out there or throw them out there. I think people have brilliant ideas and creative out-of-the-box thinking, so it's pretty fun. Because I think colleges and independent schools are really knocking it out of the park with e-schooling. It may be even a great opportunity to bring attention to families that have not thought of independent schools or thought about a college that might be a little too far, but they're really shining at this time. With that said, the topic is virtual graduation. I'm praying to God that Frank is on. What I'm going to be doing is, if anybody's been on our group like 4 weeks ago, we did get Zoom bombed, so I still have a little anxiety of Zoom. And so I'm not going to share the screen with him. I'm going to share the screen with my screen with everybody, and he's just going to tell me, to go to the next slide. So hopefully that will happen in a second. So that's the reason why I'm going to be sharing my screen. So if you hear Frank just say next slide, that's I didn't want to share it with him. I trust him completely, but I have that little anxiety. Next week, while we're waiting for Frank, and I'm crossing my fingers, next week we're going to have Angie and Jake from Enroll Media Group. They will be they're going to talk about and touch upon digital marketing, search engine marketing, social media, mobile, SEO and the mobile location targeting, things like that I think will come at a perfect time, because I think there's so many great stories out there that I think schools really need to start promoting that and letting people know what they're up to and what their prospects may be thinking about and stuff. Also in the coming weeks, we're going to have school talking about admission virtual open houses. That's been a big topic as well. So that's going to be probably in 2 weeks. And again, we've been having our meetings on Wednesdays at 3. But if anybody has any suggestions on times that they would like this to happen, I understand Wednesdays at 3 seem to be a really popular time for everybody. It's very strange. So hoping that if anybody has ideas, I would respect other organizations that are having their meetings at 3 o'clock on Wednesdays. I'm more than happy to move mine. But we, let's see, let me check if Frank's on. And if not, I'm going to give him a call. And we may do this a little differently because too many people are on it. I didn't realize.
Mr. Frank?
Hi, Frank. It's Jim from Peapod Design.
Hey, Jim. How are you?
Are you on the meeting by any chance?
I have not. I've made a dozen attempts, and I keep saying that you've reached maximum capacity.
Yeah, and I apologize, but can I get a heads up or thumbs up if people can hear Frank? What I'll do is I'll have him talk, and I'll be presenting and sharing my screen with everybody. So I'm gonna, if that's okay, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's pivot. This is all about pivoting.
Okay, I know everybody. So I'm going to introduce Frank now, and I'll let you talk and take over, and just let me know to hit the next screen. And I'll just, everybody can see the first slide that says virtual commencement, but I'll let you talk about your company and everything like that.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, Jim, and good afternoon to a packed house, apparently. And sorry I couldn't be with you more virtually, and at least in person, I guess, in some way. My name is Frank Urso. I'm the head of sales at Image Media. And like most of us, and Jim, you can go to the next slide, and I'll try to get through this in about 10 or so minutes so you guys can get back to your normal business. So as most of us have been forced to do both in our professional and personal lives, is to reimagine things that we probably never thought we would have to reimagine before. So as an organization that for 3 decades has been serving Fortune 100 clients in developing meaningful and actionable communications and immersive live and virtual events, we found ourselves needing to pivot about a month ago for obvious reasons. We saw all of our live and virtual, most of our live events canceling through the month of September. And one evening I found myself laying in bed, looking up at the ceiling, thinking about how do we reimagine ourselves. And I thought back to, as a first generation grad in my family, I thought about graduates, college graduates specifically at that time. But in the morning, made a call to my boss, the CEO, Ed Woolman, and said, what do you think about taking what we do best, which is creating a very custom experience, engaging experience for our corporate clients, and taking this to academia? And he thought it was a great idea. So that was our pivot here. And so, what I do want to talk to you a little bit about, and so while we haven't played in the academic space before, we have, like I said, for 3 decades, been doing some great work in the corporate space. So we believe that what we've come up with is a really solid idea. The feedback we've gotten from many of the individuals that we've spoken to has been really, really positive. Of course, the vision and the image when we say a virtual commencement to folks almost immediately is not very well received. And if you can go to the next slide, which should say there's another possibility, it's primarily because what's in the marketplace today are things like Zoom, right? We've all lived enough time on Zoom in the past couple of months, and really not the best environment. We wouldn't say it's the most engaging. It does serve a purpose. There are a couple other products that are in the marketplace that are a little bit off the shelf and not really customizable to some degree. So what we wanted to do is just let people know that there is another opportunity. And for those for universities and colleges that are thinking about a postponement, we talk about engaging the audience early and often and having a good plan B if that postponement doesn't come to fruition. So, together I think we can create a hybrid or primarily a virtual commencement experience that would be meaningful, memorable, and most importantly, befitting of graduates and the academic accomplishment. So this I also call my lemonade slide. So we can think about all the things that virtual isn't, and I think we just have to embrace it and think about what can it be, and take advantage of some of those things that it can be. We can invite special guests without the limitation of cost or travel time. So that's certainly one opportunity. The invite for folks to come and join and participate is another thing that it's somewhat limitless in the virtual world if you select the right technology, and we've vetted a number of these technologies. So, inviting family, friends, grandparents, where maybe they couldn't travel for any reason, well, guess what? Let's make lemonade. They can now join without having all the burden of trying to get somewhere and being available. The other opportunity that it presents is really to connect the graduates in a unique way, and also to create community as well. So especially in the collegiate space, making grads are coming out at a time that's probably the most horrific time for them, just for all the reasons we know, right? The employment market is horrendous, almost non-existent. And so we think about how do we connect these folks with alumni and with other individuals associated with their academic careers that may be able to help them in a way that ordinarily wouldn't take place if we didn't have to reinvent where we are today. And then finally, most of the times when we're telling the grads, and again, I've been there, the responsibility is make sure you got your cap and gown on, make sure you wear the appropriate clothes underneath, and show up on time, right? And those are the things that that's their level of participation for all intents and purposes. What this allows us to do in the virtual space, again, the lemonade here is it could provide an opportunity for us to engage the graduates and get them into a more participatory role. We can, again, these are all digital natives. They're very familiar. They take videos, pictures, and post more than 20 times a day, 20, 30 times a day. So to ask them to participate and ask them to submit a nice picture with them and their family, potentially, even a short video, if we wanted to have them say their name in their cap and gown, move the tassel from right to left, we can give them instructions, collect that information, and incorporate it into the overall experience as well. So that's what we believe is possible, and really it's almost limitless to what's possible. The limitations clearly are budget and timing that we're afforded. So if we can, let's go to the next slide, Jim.
Okay, Frank, I just want to ask, does everybody see the actual presentation?
Only one slide.
What's that?
Two slides so far.
Okay, so the next slide, can everybody see the core experience?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, all set, Frank.
All right.
And can everybody hear Frank okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. Wonderful. Thank you for that feedback. So what we wanted to make sure that we didn't want to do is make a huge departure from the core experience, right? Every commencement ceremony has its nuances, but it also has very similar and traditional beats to it. So we're not suggesting a complete departure that you've got to reinvent the entire ceremony. So we do want to find a nice intersection between more traditional beats that are part of the ceremony, things like student speakers, awarding of the diplomas, tossing of the mortarboards, all those kinds of things. But in the next slide, if we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
We also wanted to take advantage of potentially some of the things that we can enhance due to being virtual. Again, we talked a little bit about some of this collecting media. We can integrate a highlight reel if there's footage for the school. We can create grad pages, so more of like a social setting for people to exchange information, almost envision a virtual signing of the yearbook. So we can have a great intersection between traditional elements and some enhancements that could only be created in a virtual setting. And then if we can go to the next slide, we talk a little bit about, and maybe not so much the case, for high school graduation, as it would be maybe for a university, but to communicate and connect. And this is really about, it talks about engaging this audience in a different way, preparing them. In the corporate world, we always talk about trying to extend engagement pre and post the actual event. And it's really just about creating alignment, communication, awareness about what the process is going to be, and to get people excited, to start to get them to be active participants in the process. So we firmly believe in the same around, if time allows, for virtual commencement as well. So if you can, let's go to the sample guest journey. I'll try to fly through this pretty rapidly, but this is just a visual representation of some of the things that we just kind of I just spoke to at a high level. And so we'll go to the example agenda, which is on slide 8. So a little bit about pre-event preparation, what that may look like, visitors arriving, main stage presentations. We'll do the conferring of the virtual diplomas. The departmental alumni affinity group reception, probably, I don't know if it's going to be applicable for everybody on the phone, but I'll just mention and talk about what's possible there. And then even post-event follow-up and alumni engagement. So if we can, let's go to the next slide. A little bit about pre-event preparation. I spoke to this briefly. We can, again, there's a lot of ways to do this, but at a very high level, what we'd want to do is send some informational packet, virtual, whether it's electronic or otherwise, to each of the graduates and their families to really get them to start to engage them about what's coming, what their level of, what's expected, their level of participation, and give them very specific instructions, all the do's and don'ts of what we're looking to accomplish. So if it's visit this website, complete a grad page, submit a photo, take a selfie, take a video, whatever those instructions may be. Again, every school will have a nuance. Every school will have a little different requirements, and we'll probably all have some individual creative challenges. But nonetheless, this is where this all kicks off. It's just the preparation and really just setting up what this experience is going to be going forward. Let's go to the next slide, which is visitors arriving. It's going back to the timing and the budget. It's amazing what's available today and what we can create in a virtual world. And so what we envision is that, there's a landing page that, when people start to arrive the day of the commencement ceremony, we can take images and visuals of the campus, historic buildings, whatever is unique and special, and make that the destination for when visitors arrive and they're waiting for the event to begin.
Virtual graduations.
If time, I'm sorry.
How was Annie?
Good. I think so.
Michael, just to get her
Interested,
get her a little intrigued and be like, "Ooh, he's kind of smart." So,
can people either mute
She's
their,
not reading the book, right?
yeah.
their screens,
I can't remember
or
what
if
it's
there's a
about.
question, just let me know.
Thinking outside of your brain, like just a physical space.
There's no question, Frank. Just keep
There's
talking.
just a background noise, so I'll continue if you guys can still hear me.
Yes.
Yep, so again, it could be a visual image as people are starting to get settled in, just like if they were waiting to get into their seats and waiting for the ceremony to begin. We can do montage videos. There's a lot of things that we can do to engage the crowd. We can have music playing, and so we're just really waiting for folks to arrive, the visitors to arrive. Now, once they arrive, let's start getting into some of the more traditional beats with main stage presentations. So again, a lot of flexibility here. We can set speakers on a backdrop of the school, the quad, whatever that special place would be where commencement takes place. Again, one of the beauties of being in a virtual world, if there are additional, if there's additional content that you want to include in those presentations, we can certainly do that, whether they're graphics, whether they're videos. Again, we're working in a world where we can have both the speaker speaking and also provide content as well as we're going along. If you can go to the next slide, we should be on slide 12, main stage presentations. again, we're going to produce this like we produce all of our, large corporate events. So we're going to be handling all the run of show, the overall agenda. One of the things that I will say is that one thing that doesn't translate well, as everyone probably knows pretty well, is a 2-hour commencement ceremony and a 2-hour virtual commencement ceremony are like apples and oranges, right? So we need to be cognizant, and we can certainly help coach through how do we chunk content a little bit differently? What do we do with the overall agenda to make sure that people are engaged in a little bit different way, because the relationship that they have with their, with their computers is a little bit different relative to their attention span. The other thing that we can do too, which we've done this for our corporate clients, and this seemed like a natural as I was laying there looking at the ceiling that one evening or morning, was we talked a little bit about gathering content from, making the grads a little bit more participatory. And one way specifically that we've done this in the corporate world is we can do virtual choirs. So if you have a choir and they want to sing the national anthem, everybody can do it at their own home. We take it, put it all together, and we can present it and play it the day of the commencement. So there's a lot that we can do relative to some things that we could do for main stage and make it a little bit more engaging. If we go to the next slide, and I don't know if this is going to be applicable in all instances, but you can see in the environment we've got families and graduates that are all attending. They are visual in a very different way than even the environment. It's not Zoom. Again, we want this to feel very much like your school, your academic institution. We want people to congregate. We want them to be visual in the audience, which they will be. But then we can also have panels. So if there was a need for having special speakers or some interaction with the graduates, we certainly can create that in this space as well. If we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about conferring of diplomas. So a couple of ways that we can get to it. It would be, we can have someone at the institution call off the names of the individuals, and we can orchestrate by gathering some of that content from the grads up front. Maybe it's a quick video, an image as you see here. We can do the graphics and have their virtual walk across the stage. If we don't like stills, we can do the video where I kind of described, take a quick video of yourself in your cap and gown, say your name, maybe the college you're going to, or the major that you've majored in, or the minor, and then take your tassel, move it right to left, and we can incorporate that in, and then maybe somebody doesn't have to do all the roll call for people. We can have these graphics come up with the short video being played, and make that the experience of conferring of the diplomas. Okay, let's go to slide 16. So we'll skip over some of the detail on the conferring because I think I touched on them anyway. And so we're looking at the virtual, hopefully you're looking at the virtual capped off. So this was the crazy idea that came up again. There's a lot of stuff that's really, that we can accomplish in the virtual world. So again, going back to that user-generated content, the grads have submitted pictures or images of themselves. We could create a virtual cap toss where their images are on the mortar boards, and we could even go so far as that maybe it begins as the logo of the school, and it bursts. All the mortar boards go up in the air with the images of the students on there, and then it returns to the logo of the school and repeats. So we can do some fun things like that. Again, it's not going to replace the actual tossing of the mortar boards, but what we're trying to get at really is what's the emotional piece, what's the meaning of it, and how do we redesign that and reinvent that in a virtual setting. Next slide's a little bit about departmental alumni and affinity groups. Frats. This is just, again, building that community that I mentioned up front. So a broader, larger group. Again, within the technology, we can break those groups into smaller groups, meetings, congregations, celebrations, all those kinds of things. Again, a lot of flexibility here that we can accommodate open houses or other scheduled sessions, presenters, or any type of engagement. finally, when appropriate, and again, depending on the technology that we'd apply, again, every decision is custom as to how we apply it and what technology makes the most sense. There are some technologies out there that we can put families into their own little chat rooms. And so they can, just like if you're going out to dinner after the ceremony, obviously that's not going to be possible in the next couple months to do that. So after the ceremony, if you've invited guests, you can all get together. They can wish their congratulations together as a family for some period of time, and they can have their just some private time as well. Next slide, which should say post-event follow-up and alumni engagement, where this is applicable. I spoke about this at the top of the presentation as well. This was really born out of the concern about graduates coming out at a time that's probably the most difficult in history. And so we thought about what could we do in the virtual world to start to make those connections as easy as possible. And there's a lot of ways that we can do this within the virtual world, but it's a consideration, and if it's something of interest, we can certainly discuss it as part of a custom solution. All right, so if we can go to slide 21, and this next to last slide, so almost done. So thanks everybody for hanging in there as I'm rambling through this and trying to be respectful of everyone's time. So again, I mentioned we're for 3 decades, full service creative agency. So what does that mean? We know that everybody's busy just trying to get through the academic year. My youngest is freshman, second semester freshman, University of Tampa, home doing her academics actually 10 minutes before the call. Our Wi-Fi went down in the middle of class. That was a ton of fun, but we got it up and running as quickly as possible. And so I'm sharing that with you because I know that that's the focus for her university is we've got to deliver on the academic promise first and foremost, right? And so we're cognizant of the fact that having a partner that can take some of the load off of and the responsibility off your plate on commencement, and that's what we do for our corporate clients. We work in partnership. We don't do it in a vacuum, but we're very, we have a very iterative process, and we go and do most of the heavy lifting. So we'll create an immersive destination and destination page and stage set if that's what you choose, and that's and that's something that's within the scope of the project. We can do speaker prep. So I'm sure one of the questions is, well, if everyone's in a stay order, how do you get those presentations done? Really easy to do in the environment that we live in. We've created, we can do everything from just do it on your computers or on a webcam, which we don't recommend because of the quality, to we can send out kits. And these are, professional kits that have a stand and a high def webcam, and we can do some remote coaching as to, and some virtual coaching, and we can even do virtual teleprompters if the need arose for those kinds of things. So we can do speaker prep and coaching. We'll do the entire run of show and experiential design. So we call the show from start to finish. We'll make sure that all the beats are on time and executed flawlessly. All the technical is on us. It's what we do day in and day out. We'll have a team, obviously, day of show, just like we would if it was the actual day of the commencement and we were doing the production for the event. And then if there's any post-event analysis, again, one of the other advantages to virtual is, you can get some data and analytics on the back end relative to, kind of Google Analytics. How did people come? How long did they stay? What was of interest to them? All those kinds of analytics, so we can provide that as well. And so I won't speak to the last slide. If we go to the last slide, I'll just leave it up there. You'll have a sense of who we are, the company that we've kept for 30 years, some of the most recognizable global organizations in the world. And I guess I'll if there's time, I'd be happy to answer questions. I think, Jim, you've got Ed's contact information, and what we'd certainly encourage folks to do is if they want to have a more in-depth conversation about what they're thinking for their commencement ceremony, then probably best to reach out to Ed or the information that Ed's provided, and then we can circle back and follow up and have a specific phone call.
Okay. Any questions out there? I'm actually looking over some chat questions now. Did all the slides go through to this final slide?
Yes.
Okay. And I think cost has been a question that has been in the chat. I think that, like Frank mentioned, it's probably very custom. So I'm going to, if you're interested, send me a quick email, or let me post. I'll post your contact information, Frank, on this. Can you give me your email?
It follows the same sequence as Ed, so it's first initial, last name, so it's FURSO
Okay.
at imagemediainc.com.
imageinc.com.
Imagemediainc.com, yep.
So it's FURSO at imagemediainc.com.
That's correct.
Okay. So if you see that, that's, but again, if you have questions, you can definitely send it to me as well. What I'll do is I'll stop sharing the screen, and then what we can do is I just open it up to the participants and stuff. So if anybody has any questions for Frank or ideas that people have been doing out there for graduation, I think that kind of rattles ideas and thoughts, and I think that's what a lot of people here are looking for, quite frankly.
Great.
Do I have to unmute everybody, or I'm not sure?
Well, I think the big thing that the theme is in the last few chats is even just a ballpark figure of a cost, because some of us are elementary school and middle school. And this looks like a big, like high school, college presentation. So I guess it's mostly, it's just a ballpark figure.
Yeah, I guess the safe bet, again, everything is so custom, but my gut tells me that an elementary or middle school probably would not be the best fit for us, for the reasons you mentioned.
Because of cost, you mean?
Cost, yeah. I think because of cost.
Can you address the lead time that would be required to fulfill something like this? And again, like everybody's saying in the chat, a ballpark would be helpful, so we save your time and hours if it's not realistic.
So estimate of timing, again, I would think it's going to be contingent upon the size of the academic institution and the complexity of it. I would say that I would say 6 weeks is tight, but doable. One of the conversations that we have with most of the folks that we're talking with is, if there is any flexibility in the timing to give us a little bit more runway for success, we would appreciate it and ask that they consider that. But 6 weeks is tight but doable. Relative to a ballpark, I mean, I would say that probably north of or right around 50 is probably table stakes to 50,000 to get in to do an experience like this that we're talking about. This is not off the shelf. It's not a mass produced. It is a very custom experience.
And I don't know how much. Yeah, it sounds like an expensive project. I'm not sure how much graduations cost. I've photographed high school graduations, and I can't imagine how much they spend on it. Everything from tents to off-campus rental agreements and locations and food and everything like that. So it may not be expensive. I'm not sure. I'm not in charge of any schools that have graduations. So I'll just leave it up to the schools to maybe make a decision about something like that.
It's a good post. We do ask everybody that we talk to, and again, some people will have the appetite for this, and some won't. We understand that, but we do ask everyone to consider all of those elements as when you're trying to do an apples to apples. Again, just because it's virtual, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is an expense to it. Especially when you're talking about a high-end production as opposed to just a Zoom meeting, so to speak, which we all do every day.
And also, I want to, and I told this to Ed from your company, Frank, that I think I speak for everybody at schools that are out there. This was going to probably be an expensive project, but I think what schools do really well is they come together and share ideas. So if there was anything that came from this, there could be ideas that could possibly, that Frank kind of threw out there, and it may not be for this event, but there's something down the road that is a much larger event. But I hope that people did get something out of the whole day.
The other consideration, and again, it's just a matter of time on our side, because as you can imagine, because this is custom, it's not a baked product. We were building this as we were flying the plane for the most part, because it was an idea. We pivoted and we started to get it out there because we knew that there was going to be a need for this. And again, for me personally, it was what would this be like if this was the year that I was graduating? And so that's really what drove this whole concept. So we have talked about, is there a way to put something together that is a little bit more like a standard package that would have a lower cost price point? And quite candidly, we've been having so many conversations about the custom solution that we haven't gotten to it yet. So it's not off the table that we may be able to get there to have something that's a little bit more turnkey and affordable for everyone. But our world is custom, and that's where there seems to be the most interest at for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and I mentioned that to Ed that schools definitely, the number one question they're going to have is the price. So that's always the issue and stuff. And again, I told him, I said, I don't know what things cost, and I think Allison mentioned that they stay at the Met, and it's not that, or they have their graduation at the Met, which must be beautiful, but that costs, it doesn't cost that much. So
the other thing that's very clear to in almost every conversation, one is commitment to finishing up the academic year, so everyone's heads down trying to complete the semester. The other thing is that, I mean, and I know I'm waiting for 47% of my room and board for the second semester back from University of Tampa. So I know that if I'm sitting there waiting for my check and somebody's writing that check, that institutions, they're suffering. So we're cognizant of the fact that, it's a tough time. So we're trying to find every way that we can to make this as affordable as we possibly can. But yes, then the range of what people spend on commencement ceremonies is enormous, depending on who you're talking to.
mm-hmm.
And depending on whether they're renting space or the speakers that they're asking to participate, those kinds of things.
Does anybody have any more
question?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I just wonder if I could get your professional opinions about if you're a small school or an elementary and middle school, an operation in which your administrators are sort of like one-man departments, and you have limited resources in terms of time. Which of the elements of this virtual graduation do you think have the most emotional appeal for parents and grandparents and faculty and staff? Like, what if we had to choose 3 or 4 of the pieces that you discussed, what would you most recommend we try to recreate on our own?
Yeah, so I would say I've always, and no offense to any of the administration, but my feeling is the student speaker. So I guess valedictorian, I don't know if they even call it that in the past, but I think the student speaker always gives an interesting perspective on the year, one that's a little bit closer to everyone's personal experience for the most part as students and as graduates. So I think that's always part of it. I would say, well, obviously the walk across the stage, right? The acknowledgement, the hearing of the name. That's always a critical piece to it. I don't know how difficult it would be to create the gathering afterwards. I think that connectivity is critically important, right? I mean, every graduation I've ever been to, we went to dinner as a family afterwards. And that's kind of a special moment because it's time to connect and celebrate and especially now, more than ever, it's probably important that if you haven't seen nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, grandparents in some time, it would be nice to rally around a milestone like graduation. And then, again, it's always a nuance, and we've heard a lot of these nuances, which are really, really kind of interesting. Whether it's, the band, at one university it was, well, there's bagpipers. If there's some element or nuance like that's really symbolic of your school, then I think that's probably another one that's critically important.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Do you have somebody available to just consult with? Like, if your school couldn't afford the whole package, but you wanted to just consult with somebody for, a certain time period for a fee, do you have anything like that? Or are you just kind of like the big stage production? You don't have the levels of...
It's a great question. We because we're a full service provider, we typically don't. Like, we consult more on an initiative than individual initiatives. Now, with that said, one of the things that I can look into, one of the downsides to this whole situation is that there are a lot of freelancers in our business that are currently out of work, right? They're not working on events at the moment, or they're not inundated with events at the moment and don't foresee that they will be in some time. I can certainly, and I'll take this on, I will ask around to see if there's anyone who's open to doing so and is available to do so.
I think educators right now and school administrators are so completely overwhelmed, that even just guidance from somebody they could meet with for and just sort of guide us through if we can't afford the $40,000, price tag. Do you typically work with colleges and universities, or do you ever work with high schools? I'm from a high school, that's why.
We have never worked in academia as an organization. This literally was, how do we take what we do best and bring it to a really bad situation currently? And so we thought that the marriage of, hey, commencement, and we know the creation of an engaging, immersive, emotional experience, a memorable experience. That's what we do, and that's kind of how we arrived.
Oh, okay. Because I was presented with this as you guys. I was presented with this as you guys only work with schools, so that must have been some sort of misinformation. Okay. No. We're for, like I said, three decades corporate clients primarily. Okay.
And this idea was just the reimagination of, how do we lend our services in some way to a really bad situation? And it's very personal because there's not a person in our organization, or there aren't many people that haven't been affected by it, like that know a friend, a nephew, a niece that's a graduating senior, right? That everybody knows somebody, and so it's very, very personal for us.
And Caitlin, we just work with schools, so Peapod Design just works with schools. So
got it.
Is that about it? Frank, what I'll do is I'll email you any other questions and stuff.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you so much. I do want to stay on for a few seconds.
Well, thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Be well.
Bye-bye. And I also want to talk on pricing. We just work with schools, so I get it. But can people see the chats that are going on? Somebody mentioned that, yes, that price range to me is a pretty high thing. But again, I'm not in the school. I don't know. I don't put on graduations. To hear that one school uses the Met and it's not that much, that's amazing. So, but somebody mentioned how schools in the area can come together and join forces on creating, if somebody has the band or the facilities to make it happen. And I'm not sure if, is Brenda from Bishop Girton still on? Yes, you're still here, Brenda. Bishop Girton just put on about 2 weeks ago a pretty large, I'll let her talk, but a pretty large athletic event that was, I think, attended by hundreds of people. I mean, if I'm not mistaken. But I think the idea is, I think this could happen. A virtual graduation can happen. I think we are all creative, and I believe, Brenda, you guys use Zoom, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, hi, Jim. Our principal, Jason Sternisty, is also on the call.
Yes.
So yeah, we did our athletic information night, our sport award night, sorry. And oh my, there was like almost 300 participants. And then we also did our course selection night for our incoming class, and there was about 110 participants in that one as well. So we did sort of two different ways. One was live, and one was a canned presentation with an interactive question and answer session. So Jason, you can speak more to how it was put all together.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Jason Sternisty from Bishop Girton High School in Nashua, New Hampshire. So we've done a couple approaches, both through Zoom. We have really jumped in on Zoom as a school. The athletic award ceremony was run just like this. So we had our athletic director standing in the lobby of the school. We had a live camera feed of him, and he was the MC of the event. And then we had our coaches and other speakers and guests just join Zoom as participants. It worked fairly well, but you get the usual Zoom stuff where, you have somebody's not muted, or you have somebody starts to talk and they're on mute, all the little production value things. That it wasn't the most flattering setup for a lot of the people. The second thing is when you share a screen in Zoom, one of the little checkboxes hidden at the bottom of the screen is to optimize for video and play sound. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to take a video that you might have on your computer and play that directly. So if you even have an iPhone and you can record a pretty decent video of someone making a presentation, you can queue that up. Then you can go into a Zoom conference and play that. So if I were to give an awards presentation to this group right now, I could just play a video that I have on my computer. You'd all see and hear it. And then what that would allow you to do is you'd have the chat on the side. So you get the applause and the congratulations and the sense of a live community that's happening on the side. And you can, and your whole community has this sense of watching it together. You're not just throwing it up on YouTube. That worked really well for our freshman night. We had a night for our freshmen coming into the school to pick their courses, and they responded well to that. We're doing our big fundraiser. We have a Mr. BG pageant coming up on the weekend. We're running it that way, and we think we might well run our graduation that way too.
So can I ask a quick question, Jason? What made you do Zoom instead of a live stream? Like, we've always live streamed our graduation because we have limited amount of people that can fit in the cathedral that we use. So kind of, it seems to me like live streaming would just sort of be easier. So I was like, what did the Zoom element bring in?
It brings in a level of production value. So one of the key questions is, could you get people into the same place or into a place where they're all going to look very good presenting on camera. And for most of us right now, the answer to that is no. But it might be possible to get over the course of a week all of your speakers into the same location, and they each record their presentation separately, and then you put those together. And chances are you probably have a teacher or a student or a parent in your community that would be able to help you with the production side of that, that would be able to help you string together those videos in a cohesive way, or could lend you a camera, or whatever the case might be. I don't know, did I answer the question or no? I think the answer to the quick answer to the question is, it's a much better production value on the event, that you're not jumping from Zoom window to Zoom window and dealing with webcams and computer microphones and things.
It also allows some interaction. When we were doing the athletic award night, what was really nice to see were that the student was in the Zoom kind of pane, if you will, the picture. And in the background, you could see their parents. And if they won an award, you know, they were hugging each other. And, you know, and there was an interactiveness to it that obviously we're craving and missing right now, but it really made it a little bit more personal. And it was a little bit more up close and personal because we were actually had a snapshot into their family dynamic. It was really sweet.
Thank you.
And I think Brenda and Jason, people do want you to send or put up your email. I have a funny feeling you're going to get a couple of questions privately.
I'm typing that in now.
Yeah, I put mine in, so feel free to get in touch with us. Jason is definitely the technical side of and the strength of our school, no question about it, among other things. We have been doing a lot with this. I was a little late coming on to this because our Quiz Bowl team was having a scrimmage with another school in the area all through Zoom. So we were watching it, we were being supportive fans. So we've really tried to make it as many opportunities for our students as possible. And right now we're discussing all the end of the year things to make sure that they don't lose out on those special moments.
And I think what everybody's looking for is that the silver bullet here, because you don't want time to kind of pass by and you're like, oh my God, I wish I thought of that. I really think schools, what makes them brilliant is that they really do come forward and share ideas. So if anybody has any ideas and any thoughts, I think I don't know if there's a forum to place anything on, but I know we meet every week, and this has become a topic for the past 3 weeks. Right away, right out of the gate, graduation was the number one topic. I mean, of course, e-learning and stuff, but shortly after that, graduation was always a topic. So I know people don't want, whether you're a small school or a larger school or a university, I know people don't want to have that moment pass them by, because it can also be a moment of history here, that your graduation and that graduating class can experience something, maybe have something later on, but you're still going to have a graduation, and they'll look back and say, God, this was something special. And it is a moment where you could, if you're going to send out packets before graduation, to include a sweatshirt or a t-shirt that says, I lived through this, whatever you want to call the virus and everything like that. But it's like a memory of what is happening, rather than just ignore it. Anybody have any other questions or thoughts or comments? I mean, here's also a great opportunity here's an idea. There's high schools out there that also may be looking at feeder schools to their organization or their school. And you could team up with some of your feeder schools in their 8th grade graduation and make it a combination of, what we're limited with, bands or musical instruments or choirs and stuff. And they could be part of the feeder school that may have a less budget, or not even a budget, but the facilities or the, like I said, the musical background and stuff. And you could just make it a memorable experience for them that's a little bit better than what they may have or may going to have. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you're already starting your partnership with them right now to look for those families to feed into your school. I mean, I don't know, ideas that people can think of. We're always looking to, market, and that could be one.
Could I ask a question for Jason and Brenda? You mentioned that you did a night for your incoming freshmen. And was that a canned presentation? So it was pre-recorded, and then as it was aired, people could post questions? Or how did that work?
Yes, I mean, we all did sort of a section. I was the overall moderator and sort of explained the details of the night. I unmuted, if you will, to welcome everyone, and then we rolled the presentation, and we left the chat room open. So we had one person from our staff sort of moderating the chat so that we were answering the questions as they came in. Jason had pieced it all together the whole evening. But the one thing that we did do ahead of time was we sent out a link where they could send in questions ahead of time. So we made sure that we've been doing this presentation for a number of years, tweaking it, of course, along the way, but we sort of knew what we wanted to say,
right,
and we were very clear about what we wanted to say. But we thought, in this strange time, there might be questions out there that we haven't really thought of. So we put a link out there for people to put a question into a Google Doc. And so we made sure that those questions were answered pretty much within the presentation, but reiterated them in the chat because inevitably people, even though we put it out there, they're going to ask that question, even though you said it 5 times. But Jason did pretty much the production of it. So he put it all together for us.
And there are schools that are similar to Bishop Girton. I don't know if they are, but I will tell you this, that they're being very, very humble right now. If people have been on our chats before, they're very, very humble. They are knocking it out of the park with e-learning and all of this Zoom or virtual meetings and conferences and presentations and athletic events and everything like that. They're being written about in multiple newspapers and magazines out there. And I hate to say it because I know, Brenda, I know you guys don't want more emails, but there are schools out there that have been doing, pretty well. And just to give a little bit of background on Bishop Girton, they don't have, because of where they're located in Nashua, New Hampshire, they don't have snow dates or snow days. So I think you guys pull from 40 different locations. So if there's a snow day, they go immediately to virtual learning. So this is almost a very natural thing for them. So for them to be written about in so many, magazines and articles, I think people realize that they are known for this. So, I would think that they're a perfect school to ask about events like a graduation. So I'm dying to hear what you guys eventually are going to do. So that's what, I know you guys probably don't know it yet, but I think I'm dying to hear it one day.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep, thank you. And you have our contact info, so if there's anything that we can do to help or tell you what we've done, we're happy to share and also learn from some of your experiences as well.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind, to Jason and Brenda. When you did the award ceremony, how many people were on that Zoom conference or ceremony?
I think it was in the vicinity of, I know we crossed 200. We might have crossed 300. We have upgraded a school account in Zoom to accommodate up to 1,000, which I think is the largest meeting that you can have. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much. It's like saving one bus trip that we didn't have because we don't have school. And so, small money, and that's been a big deal because we've had programs that have attracted more. We can post those.
And one of the things we've been trying to do from the counseling department, I oversee the counseling and admissions department at the school. We're a school of about 800 students, so there's about 200 students per grade. We're 9 through 12. And yesterday we did a impromptu kind of college admissions question and answer with the school counselors, and we had over 100 students just jump on to that session. It was after school for about a half hour. So the students have been very responsive to things that we've been offering. Today we had a formation day where we offered them all kinds of different sessions that they could hop onto. Everything from current events to financial planning to a workout session. So there were a lot of different things that students could jump onto, and almost in each one there was over 100 students involved in all these different sessions. So the students are responding pretty well. Not to mention that they're probably a little bored, so everything looks good right now.
Do you invite parents to those sorts of things, like the college thing?
Yeah.
You invite the parents?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
there were some parents some whole families were sitting there when we were talking about something as exciting as SATs. So, but they're, they want to know the information, and it's great for families to see the offerings and listen to how the students interact with the adults in the building.
And what I also love, Brenda, is that you said a phrase that I think is so normal, and it fits into your schedule of how you set up the school, how you kept the normalcy of it, but you said it was after school. So that's like so many schools are just like ending at 11 o'clock and, or even 10 o'clock, and some of the public schools. And it's like your after school is like literally like the normal after school. So it's kind of, I think that's nice when schools can stay talking, like it's always been like that.
Well, we really feel that that's the most important thing, is the outreach to the students and to keep it as consistent and as normal as possible right now. There's so much unknown.
Hopefully people got some ideas on virtual graduation. I think the price tag seemed a little high. I will agree on that one. So I don't think they work with schools. We work with schools, so we get like budgets and stuff. But I hope people got some nuggets of information, at least some people that you can kind of reach out to and share ideas and stuff. So, I hope today was helpful.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other questions? I know it's going over a little bit. So if there's no other questions, we can kind of end the meeting and reach out to us if you have any other questions. Thank you so much, everybody. Hang in there.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jim. Take care. Stay healthy.
Thank you. You too. Bye, everybody.